Sometimes people ask me about my theology of hope. And I've often quoted Hebrews, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. My best paraphrase of that still is, hope means believing in spite of the evidence, and then watching the evidence change. And people ask, where did you get that? And I think the moment I can think of is when in South Africa, during the difficult days, the darkest days, I was asked to come to be in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in the churches who were under such attack. So I went during a Lent, and I had to be snuck in the country because I was on all the security lists. But I remember coming to St. George's Cathedral. I was to meet Desmond Tutu and Alan Busak and Frank Chicani, all of our friends there. I came there having been snuck in the country, arriving during what was to be a rally, but canceled by the authorities. So Desmond Tutu said, let's just make it a faith service, a prayer service. And so we did, and they didn't cancel that. So I'm sitting in a small cathedral, St. George's, surrounded by, on the outside, police and military, outnumbering us 3-1, intended to frighten us, and it was at least working as far as I was concerned. And Desmond Tutu rose behind the pulpit to preach. He had just begun when they broke open the doors of the cathedral in the back, and they came in, these South African security police. I've been interrogated by these guys and their thugs. So they lined the walls of this cathedral, and they had pads in their hands and tape recorders, as if to say, go ahead, you preach, you be bold, you be prophetic. We're going to get you. We'll put you back in jail where we just had you a few weeks ago. And they were saying, in effect, we own this place. We own this church. We own your religion. We own you. We own your God. There's nothing you can do about it. That's what they were saying to him. He stopped talking, bowed his head as if in prayer. Then he looked up. He looked at them from side to side. He said, you are powerful. You are very powerful. But you are not God's. And I serve a God who will not be mocked. Then he smiled, that classic Desmond Tutu signature smile. He said, so, since you've already lost, I was amazed. Since you've already lost, I began to bounce like a good Baptist preacher. We invite you today to come and join the winning side. The whole place erupted. We all jumped to our feet. Young people began this dancing, chanting, stomping. It's called the toi-toi, this dance that we always did. They danced us out into the street, and the police moved back. They didn't expect dancing worshipers. We danced in the streets of South Africa. 10 years later, I was at the inauguration of Nelson Mandela, and guess who was the master of ceremonies? Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I said, Bishop, do you remember that day in St. George's? I remember what you said. Remember what happened. Remember what we did. And he smiled. He remembered. I said, Bishop, today, they've all joined the winning side, because there wasn't one white South African on that day who hadn't always been against apartheid, and they joined the winning side. And he taught me that day that there's faith that prompts hope, creates action that makes change. That's the way it always is: faith, hope, action, and change. And being at the party, the inauguration, is wonderful. I mean, it's great to be there. 150,000 people, tears streaming down, hearing Nelson Mandela announce the birth of a new nation. But being at St. George's was where people of faith have to be, and they see the party, they see the celebration only through eyes of faith. They believe the party is possible, and then they bet their lives on the party being possible. And our role is really not at the celebration. Our role is back at St. George's, when you have to have faith to even see the possibility of the celebration. Faith is believing in spite of the evidence and watching the evidence change.